Hello, this is Mark with the channel Aquarian Christianity. I'll entitle this Getting the Ear of the Cops, or How My Church Slandered Me. Now I've noticed, and let me get this thing straightened out here. It's like getting a catty-cornered view of my surroundings. I was very sick. When I was 21, I had my first legal adult drink, and I hadn't had much before that, except for, well, I'd only had what my father had given me to drink, alcohol, as far as alcohol. And one time, I didn't even know that I wasn't allowed to drink alcohol. So, you know, I just did what my father said. And when I hit 25, I started having serious health problems all of a sudden for no apparent reason. Other than the devil was after me, I suppose. I think that was the reason. The devil was after me. I started having serious health problems to improve and increase my faith. And I started drinking alcohol, to a good amount of alcohol. And I started living in a basement, in a room in a basement. It was probably about 8 feet by 5 feet. The room was probably about 8 feet by 5 feet. So there was about 50 square feet room, which is a little bit less than they gave you in communist Russia. They give you about less than 100 square feet in communist Russia per person. And and I had about 40 or 50 square feet in my room. And the trash bin was in the yard, a ways away from my room in my basement under a house. And there were different rooms, and we had a common area too. And I think we used to have a trash can, but I don't know where that trash can went, or I didn't think to use it. But the trash bin was upstairs. We had to go upstairs and walk across the yard to get to the trash bin. So I didn't do that. I drank alcohol more because of my health. It eased my complaints, eased my pain, and so I drank alcohol. And I wouldn't throw the bottles away because it seemed like a big chore to go outside and go to the trash bin. So I would line up bottles of alcohol, empty bottles of alcohol underneath my table by my bed. And I went to Bible study fellowship, and there was a man there that told me he had $1 million business, or multi-million-dollar business. I think he said it was $1 million business. And he took me home one time and walked by my multi-million-dollar asphalt business. He took me home one time and watched me as I entered my room in the basement where I lived. The rent was $100 a month, and we had showers upstairs. Except for one trash can, I don't think we had a trash can. I don't know what happened to that trash can. So I just lined up bottles of alcohol by my bed, underneath my table that I had my TV on and that I ate on. And I was eating lentils and rice most of the time. I guess I was drinking alcohol and drinking water. And when our refrigerator went out, I stopped drinking milk because we had no way to refrigerate what the milk or the meat. I think I had some meat maybe had some meat from the grocery store. And my car was breaking down, but I think that man who was a preacher, he was a preacher and he worked at asphalt, and he had $1 million business. He went and told my church that I had all these bottles of alcohol lined up, empty bottles. Or maybe my church found out some other way. And my church slandered me. Because the cops would meet at, and people knew this. People knew that I drank alcohol, and they thought I was a drunkard. Although they never found me drunk. They never found me drunk. But that's what they decided to say. The cops would meet at my church. This was North Central Central Church of Christ in Bloomington. And I'm sure they heard from my elders or from other members of my congregation that I was probably a drunk driver and that I was an alcoholic. And so the cops started pulling me over. I was delivering newspapers. There was a guy that I worked for in the newspaper office. I delivered newspapers for the school, and I was a friend of mine, and we worked, and we worked together, and I would get my newspapers together. I'd go out I used to get up like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to sleep about 11 because I couldn't go to sleep early. And I get up about 3:30. This is before I lived in the basement. And maybe about the time I was living in the basement too, I don't know. And actually I think I was working at Pizza Hut then. I don't know how they thought that I was a drunkard, but I've never been a drunkard. I was delivering newspapers one day, and my church apparently told like the cops that meet at their church for whatever meeting they had. I saw a bunch of cops meeting there one time, and they told them I was a drunkard, and apparently a drunken driver. And I had these newspapers with me. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I get the newspapers, and the newspapers didn't come out when they're supposed to come out. So I used to get up at like 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning and get over there like about 4:30 or 5 and pick up the newspapers. I had newspapers in my car, and there was a woman policeman, and she pulled me over. She said, "You swerved." And instead of saying, well, is your speech slurred, or would you do a field sobriety test, she just gave me a breathalyzer right on the spot. And this stuff happened within about 2 years. All this stuff happened within about 2 years of each other. She gave me a breathalyzer on the spot. And she found out I was not drunk, so I continued to do my work at delivering newspapers. But she said I swerved. I didn't swerve. And then I was driving up to Indianapolis from Bloomington, Indiana, and I think it was a time in between that. I think it was about 3 times cops pulled me over for drunken driving, and I didn't have a drop in me at the time, any of the times. But that's what my church was saying. There was a guy in my church, like a Bible study leader. There was like a Bible study leader at a church at the Bible study I went to for the college group, and he implied that I was drunk. He said a preacher said, "Let's get all the alcohol and throw it in the river." And then he said, then the church sang, "Shall we gather at the river?" They said the song says, "Shall we gather at the river?" He was also calling me a child molester. He was saying, the preacher did a sermon about child molestation, and then he said, let him have, he sang a song, let him have his way with thee. You know, and he did this right in front of my face. I mean, like we were about 2 or 3 feet apart from each other. He talked about, you know, take all the alcohol and throw it in the river, and they sang a song, Shall We Gather at the River, he was saying. Then he said another scenario, the preacher talked about child molestation, and then he sang a song, Let Him Have His Way with Thee. And, you know, it's supposed to be funny, I guess. And so they're calling me a child molester and a drunkard, a drunken driver. And so another cop pulled me over, and he said, you swerved. And I said, I didn't notice I swerved. I said something like, I didn't notice I swerved. I don't think I swerved. He said, yeah, you swerved. I said, okay. And my cars didn't squeal. My tires didn't squeal. And he pulled me over, and he said, you're not wearing your seatbelt. Well, I always felt it was my decision in my car whether I wear my seatbelt or not. But I changed my mind, and I said, okay, well, the government wants us to wear our seatbelts, so I'll wear my seatbelt. You know, Bush was caught. George W. Bush was caught not wearing a seatbelt, and they said, well, that's okay, he's the president. You know, and so it doesn't apply across the board. You know, there's a strata in society, and those at the lower end, you know, whether it's by Satan or by whomever, you know, and Satan has his people, those at the lower end of society get the most kicks, get the most abuse. Either by Satan or by society, or I believe by both. So he pulled me over. So the guy pulled me over, and he said, you know, he said, have you been drinking? And I said, no. And he said, your seatbelt was not fastened. And I said, you know, I said, okay. And he said, if I breathalyze you, what will the breathalyzer say? I said, well, it should say 0. So I got me out of the car. I don't know why he had me go get out of the car. I could have done it in the car, but he got me out of the car. I was by the bumper of my old car. It was a Buick. I think it was an 86 Buick. It was 84 Buick. It was 84 Buick, and this was the late 90s, about 99. So the car was about 15 years old. And my car now is almost 20. It's 19 years old. Honda Civic, 19 years old, 2002. This is 2021. This is 2021, December, whatever it is, 15th. I think it's December 15th, what it says. And he said, if I breathalyze you, what will it say? I said, well, it should say 0. So he got me out. I was by the bumper of my car, and he was behind me after he pulled me over. And I said, what does it say? He says 0. I said, what did I say it would say? And at that point, the cops started getting embarrassed. They started getting embarrassed. But I was pulled over about 3 times. One time I can't remember. I think I was pulled over 3 times. One time I was doing my job. One time I was going to Indianapolis because I wanted to just drive around and take a kind of joyride. And the cops pulled me over. And, you know, it was clear from what Josh said that he considered me a child molester and a drunk. Because he talked about me to my face in indirect ways, but were pretty understandable, that he thought I was a drunk and a child molester. You know, shall we gather at the river where they pour the alcohol in the river, and let him have his way with thee. But what I want to say is, you know, churches can get their ear, can get the cops' ears. Churches can get the cops' ear, and slander the innocent to the cops. Jesus' disciples were legally allowed, according to Jewish law, to eat to go into a field and to eat pick the heads of grain and eat the heads of grain, or eat the grain from the heads of grain, if they wanted to. I mean, you could even, according to Jewish law, you could even go to a vineyard and eat the grapes. And so the disciples were hungry. Jesus apparently gave approval to doing this. And the Pharisees say, it's a Sabbath. They're harvesting on the Sabbath. And Jesus said, do you not know where have you never read where David David took the showbread, or the ritual showbread, the ritualized bread that represented the 12 tribes of Israel. I think there were 12 loaves. 12 loaves? I think there were 12 loaves of bread that represented the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 6 loaves of bread and something like that. 6 loaves or 12 loaves of bread that represented the 12 tribes of Israel. And do you not know that David, when he was hungry with his companions, he took the showbread. It was only for show. It was only for the priest to eat. And he ate it and gave it to his companions. You know, and Jesus said, if you knew what this meant, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. And so, I mean, my church says a lot of things that I didn't know it said. You know, when I went into the church, I didn't know they were talking about me behind my back. I didn't know anybody cared about what I did or what I said. But I found out they did. I was talking to a woman, an old woman, at my church, and she said, hi, I'm Brandon. I said, use my middle name. I said, I'm Brandon. And she said, oh, I know who you are. You know, and so I was asking God for a sign to do this video, and I saw a squirrel. And I asked God for a sign. I said, give me a loud caw or a loud chirp from a bird outside, because I got the impression you wanted me to do the video. I said, if you want to give me a sign to do the video, a loud caw from a crow or a loud chirp from a bird, and I heard a loud caw from a crow, and I saw a squirrel. So I think God wanted me to do this video. But yeah, the church will slander Christians. They have no shame. They'll do it. They'll do it again. They don't care about the truth. Jesus said, everyone on the side of truth listens to me. And he said, all that came before me are thieves and robbers. He said, but the sheep did not listen to them. But they have the ear of the cops. And I'm sure people have the ear of the FBI. So it doesn't matter what the truth is. It only matters who has the money. Because the preacher asphalt guy had the money. And I don't know, maybe he didn't say anything, but he saw inside my apartment, or inside my room in the basement, and he might have seen the alcohol bottles, the bottles of alcohol that were empty. Because I don't know who else would have seen that, or who else would have known. But however it happens, my church got a hold of it. They told the cops, and the cops started going after me. You know, and I embarrassed them. I said, look, what does it say? He said, 0. I said, what did I say it would say? And he didn't answer me. The church will slander you, Christian. The church will slander you. They have no shame. They're not of God. Because you have the Pharisees. Where did all the Pharisees go? They're in church. You know, Jesus came along and he shook things up. He said, look, you know, you're not following the law, you Pharisees. And he spoke with authority. And they killed him. Same thing with Abel. He spoke the truth and Cain killed him. Same thing that almost happened with Joseph. he would tell his dreams, and his brothers came to kill him. And they ended up selling him into slavery in Egypt. The cops are not the good guys. I ran into some cops one time. I said something was stolen from my apartment. Somebody stole a VCR from my apartment because I didn't, or my room. It was another place. It was a better place. They had a refrigerator in the room, and we had a common kitchen and a common bathroom. And I told the cops, I said, look, come over here. Somebody stole my VCR. I want my VCR back. And the cops started looking through my room. And I said, what are you looking for? And he said drugs. So I mean, and it was because part of it was probably because I lived in a poor area. But I wanted help from the cops, and they were looking to get me into trouble. And if there had been drugs there that weren't mine, I would have gone to jail and would have taken everything I owned, because that's a law. Civil forfeiture, they can take everything you own if you're suggested, if you're accused of being of having done a drug crime. They can take everything you own, your car, your house, everything. So anyway, I really wish these young Christians would realize, I really wish you young Christians would realize that the world is of the devil. The world follows the devil. The world molests children. The world gets drunk and drives. The world tries to get Christians fired. The world murders Christians. Just because you don't see a murder doesn't mean they don't happen. You can hear it on the news. Just because you see a murder doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And just because it's not called a murder doesn't mean it isn't. They gossip, they slander, they wife swap. There was an elder talking about that. Somebody came up to him and said he would like to wife swap with him. And he never said he didn't do it, the elder in the church. But he said somebody came up to him to wife swap. Several men have come up to me that have been married. They want to have sex with me. Men want to have sex with me. There was a man, next door neighbor, kind of next door neighbor. He wanted to have sex with me. And he was in his 30s. And there was a boy outside. He wanted to have sex with me. He was helping with the mulching out there. He was trying, and the man that was with this boy was trying to hook us up. Anyway, torture, slander, Truce-Breakers, thieves. That's what the world is. God bless.